All right, so you are watching me if you're stuck on number 4, number 5 on this problem 1 linear modeling. So number 4 is asking, after how many months do the Winding Winds apartments and Forest Heights apartments cost the same amount? How do you know? Your hint is to use Desmos, so make sure that this link is open if it is not already. And all I've done so far is copy and paste my 2 equations for the Winding Winds apartments and Forest Heights apartments in the box. So if your equations do not look like this, make sure that they do. So it has to be 400 has to go with the rate because that's rent. That's how much Shaden's paying per month. And then the $300 is that initial starting fee, initial down payment. Same thing with the Forest Heights. $500 tells us our rent, and then the $200 tells us the initial payment, the initial down payment. So all I'm going to do is copy and paste these 2 equations into Desmos. Pause your video if you need to get these 2 equations down. You might have to zoom out a little bit. You might have to zoom in a little bit, but make sure your lines look something like this, and you're going to have 3 dots here. So if there is a 0 in your coordinate pair, in your ordered pair, that's most likely not going to be where your equations cross. This is just telling us where one graph crosses the x-axis. There's a 0 here, so this is telling us where the graph crosses the y-axis. And on this third dot, there is not a 0. It gives us an ordered pair of 1, 700. So I'm coming back here, and I'm just going to type that, 1, 700. And our ordered pair is x, y. So I have to think now, what is x telling me? What is y telling me? X usually is going to tell us something that changes. In this case, the number of months changes. Our problem also gave us this. It told us to make an equation after x months. So x has to be our number of months. Y is always going to be total something. And in this case, it's going to be total amount of money Jaden spends on the apartment. When we're putting these 2 pieces together, our Y tells us the total amount of how much she's spending. So the monthly cost plus the startup fee, the down payment, that's the same for the Forest Heights apartment. The 500x tells us our rent, the 200 is the initial payment. So when I'm looking at my ordered pair, 1 gives me x, so 1 gives me the number of months, and y gives me the amount she's spending on the apartment, so 700 on the apartment. So my ordered pair is telling me that after 1 month, or at 1 month, I'll say, the Forest Heights and Winding Winds apartments cost the same, because that's where the graphs intersect. I think I'm going to insert a screenshot of my graph as well, just to prove this. And the answer key. Oh my gosh, but that was way too big. I want it a little bit smaller. So all I did was find where these 2 graphs cross. And that was at 1, 700. 1, which is my x value, being the number of months. Y, which is my x value, being $700. And then number 5 is asking me a similar question. After how many months do the Forest Heights apartments and River Lane apartments cost the same amount? How do you know? And we're going to use Desmos to help us here. So all I've done so far is copy and paste my 2 equations for Forest Heights and River Lane apartments into this box. Make sure that your 2 equations look like this. And just like I did with the last problem, that's what I'm going to do in Desmos. So I'm going to clear out these 2 equations, and I'm going to copy and paste my new equations into Desmos and find where they intersect. Where they intersect tells me the cost is the same. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Again, I don't really want to find a 0 in my ordered pair right now, because zeros in this case just tell me where my graphs intersect the X and Y axis. So if I click on this, I have a 0 here. Oops. So I'm going to ignore it. If I click on this, I have a 0, 350. I'm going to ignore that. But if I find this other dot, I have 3, 1700. No zeros there, so I know that's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to type that 3, 1700. And in my ordered pair, I'm going to say X and Y again, just to remind me which is which. And I'm also going to remind myself, what does X mean, the number of months? What does Y mean, the total amount Jaden spends on her apartment? So my X value is 3, tells me my number of months. And the Y value is 1,700, which tells me at 3 months, both apartments cost $1,700. So at 3 months, the Forest Heights and River Lane apartments cost the same amount. And just like I did before, I'm going to take a screenshot of this just to prove my point. So this is me showing my work, my screenshot. Perfect. So I can see that point that shows where the two graphs cross.